Kind of fast, kind of not. Either way, always running or talking about it. Welcome to the Kind of Fast podcast, powered by Upward Running. Let's get into it.
Hello, and welcome back to the Kind of Fast podcast, the show where we talk running, real life, and everything in between.
Today's main topic, I think you're going to like. We're going to talk about the different phases of a training cycle and then learn about how we put all those together so that you get to a peak performance at the perfect time for your race.
Yeah, and we're going to hear from the infamous Coach Dean about our 4 main phases of training and what happens during each of those phases. And then we're going to give you one word to focus on for each of the 4 phases.
But before we dive into those, here's some other things we're talking about today. We got the what does that even mean segment. We got our news section, which will include, some info from the Fifth Avenue Mile, from our own Upward Running Strava group. You found a couple of articles that were cool. One was a tribute to the Flying Nun, which I didn't know that term before here. And then another one where you heard about something coming out of a Utah prison that was pretty cool related to running. And so we'll tell you all about that.
Yes, and I think it's my favorite news story to date. I teared up reading it, and then I read it to everybody in our office. But that's okay. You're going to hear it here. It's going to be amazing. So whether you are training for your very first 5K or dreaming about Boston like Travis, we're glad you're here. Thanks for joining in.
All right, let's get into it.
Okay, our first segment is what does that even mean? And today's term is one of those things you see on your watch, you see it on the internet, and you think, what does that even mean? So let's talk about it. VO₂ Max.
Yeah, VO₂ Max is short for maximal oxygen uptake. It is the maximum amount of oxygen that your body can use during intense exercise. It's usually measured by millimeters per kilogram per minute. Think of that like your aerobic engine size. The bigger the engine, the more efficiently you can perform. I had a high school teammate who went on to get a doctorate in exercise physiology, I think you would say. We should have totally had him in for this segment.
Oh,
but
yeah.
He's a busy guy. But anyway, he would be able to break this down to it much better than us. But that's the basic rundown of what VO₂ Max is there.
Yeah, fun fact, I had no idea what this was before today's episode. And this VO₂ Max actually was inspired by my mom because she said, "Hey, Claire, what is VO₂ Max?" And I said, that's a great segment for what does that even mean? So I'm learning alongside with you. Apparently, if your VO₂ Max is high, your body is really good at taking in the oxygen, moving it through your bloodstream and turning it into energy for your muscles. If it's lower, your engine's just not as powerful yet, but it is trainable.
Explain it to me as if I'm a 5th grader.
It's how good your body is at using air when you're running really fast. If you can use a lot of air, you can keep going longer. If not, you get tired faster.
Yep. And here's where it gets interesting. VO₂ Max usually peaks in your late 20s if you're a man, if in your early 30s. If you're a woman, then it starts to decline. On average, you lose about 2% per year after you're 30 if you don't do anything, which is just like, why do they keep throwing this at us older people here? They say the same thing if you aren't lifting after 40, you lose about 2% of your muscle mass as well. But something you got to manage and be aware of so you can kind of curve the effects of.
Yeah, it sounds really bad, but it actually doesn't have to be. Training can slow that decline down a lot. In fact, some runners in their 60s and 70s maintain a VO₂ Max score that rival much younger athletes. So there's hope.
Yeah, I bet Coach Dean's VO₂ Max is still out of the roof.
Oh, we should ask him.
He would. As much as he runs, that would be interesting to know. And, Mitchell's been on this health thing, tracking a bunch of things with blood markers and things like that. I bet his is very good as well. So let's give some people some benchmarks that we found. According to Runner's World, here's what is considered good by VO₂ Max by age. So for men in their 40s, that's me, a VO₂ Max in the 40s, to even maybe low 50s is very solid, they said. For women in their 40s, if you're looking at a VO2 max in the 30s to maybe up to the low 40s. That would be a very good range to be in as well. By your 50s, those numbers slide down a little bit. So men, that would be in the 30s to 40s for a VO2 max. For women, that moves to like upper 20s to somewhere in the 30s.
Interesting. Very interesting. But your watch's VO2 max estimate is not exactly perfect. So unless you're hooked up to the mask on the treadmill, I can probably insert a video clip to show you what it looks like. You're not going to get a 100% accurate reading. It's more of an educated guess. But here is what is helpful. If you're training consistently, your watch can show you trends. Is your number creeping up over a few months of training, or is it sliding back down? That's where this could become useful.
Yeah, I think that if you go in, like we've got Garmin watches, but I'm sure all of the major sports watches out there does it. How accurate are those VO2 max estimates? I have no idea, but I do think seeing it over time is a good way of doing that. So how do you improve your VO2 max? You might be asking that. A lot of runners get this wrong by running too fast too often. Here's what really works. Number one, slow running matters. And we're talking, zone 2, like we've been talking about in previous episodes, where you can easily hold a conversation while you're running. Those runs help build more capillaries in your body or small blood vessels, and that's what delivers oxygen to your muscles. So when you are running too fast or even more intense efforts, your body's not looking to build those extra capillary beds, you would say there, and so you're not really expanding what your VO2 max would be. Number 2, it also grows your mitochondria, which is the power plants inside your cells that turns oxygen into energy. Again, you do that at slower efforts. But you still need some intensity. Most experts say that each week the ratio should be 70 to 80% easy running and 20 to 30% harder running each week. And that mix of polarized training is what ultimately will help grow your VO2 max.
Fun fact, Upward Running actually incorporates all of those levels of running into our training plans. So Coach Dean, he knew what he was doing.
Yep, exactly.
But the bottom line is your VO2 max is just your body's oxygen efficiency score, or to put it even more simply, the don't get so tired when you're running score. It changes with your age, but you can improve it. Focus on consistency, celebrate small gains, and let your VO2 max be a reminder that steady steps lead to long-term growth.
Absolutely. So in prep for this, we looked at our VO2 max from Garmin, and we actually have the same exact score. It said 51 for both of us, but you were listed in the superior range. I was not. I think it's because you are a female and I'm a male. I was right on the edge of being in the superior range, but not. And it just bothers me that you're better than me.
Let me have it. Okay, This is the one thing that I can beat you in the running world. Let me have it.
Come on.
Girl power. Woo! Let me have it, for real. We'll see. We should try again. We'll measure again in 6 months.
Oh, I do think, and you should maybe pop this up on the screen for our YouTube listeners. Since I was out for 10 weeks earlier this year, being injured, my VO2 max has steadily increased over the last 4 or 5 months now. And I think it's an interesting trend there. So when we talked about like your watch, how perfect is it? Who knows? But it can show trend lines over time. I'm certainly in way better shape today than I was, say, in March, April of this year. And the VO2 max score is a good indicator from that.
And what's really interesting is that your chart looks like an actual chart. Mine is like a flat line, it's so bad.
You just stay in superior shape. I think that's what that's saying.
Okay, we'll take it. Yo, guys, it's time for the news. I see what you did there. Did you add that there?
No, I did not.
Did you not? Did I put that there? Yo, guys, it's time for the news. The New Balance Fifth Avenue Mile was this past weekend, and I have the results. In wet conditions, it was an American sweep. Gracie Morris took the win in the professional women's race, while Nagoose won the professional men's race. And we've been kind of tracking him for a few weeks.
Yeah,
so
it seems like we talk about the goose every week. And so I thought we were going to be done after last week when he didn't make the world championship
Right?
team. And we said, it's good. It's a good year. And just didn't end up the way he really wanted. And I noted last week, he probably didn't make the world championship because he's got tired legs. He's been racing all year, only to run one more race and to win the thing, kind of at the line. It was a pretty exciting race there where he won it literally in the last step or two there. So he ran 3:47. Gracie Morris ran 4:15, and all wet street conditions there in New York, which with some of those racing shoes, they don't have the greatest grip. So to be running that fast on wet conditions, very impressive there.
And that is fast. My half mile, I can run in 4 minutes and 15 seconds like Gracie did. She ran a full mile.
You could run faster than that, I think. But
I think so, but still, in raining conditions,
yeah,
maybe not.
Very impressive.
What's your PR in the mile? Adult.
Well, when I ran the 5K a few weeks ago in Anderson, my Garmin said that is the fastest I've run a mile with my Garmin watch on. So 5:39 mile one of that. So I guess that's my adult PR. I think I can go a little faster than that, but whoever races the mile, who knows?
I think you should on the track with all your friends and not actually have it count.
That's my PR, 5:39. Any idea what your mile PR is?
I want to say it's 6 something.
Yeah.
It's 6 something.
It's just a whole minute range there. Yeah. That's fine.
Probably 6:50, 6:45.
But since we have the same VO₂ Max, shouldn't you be right there with me? Does it work like that? Should I give you a 30-second head start like the men and the women had here? So the men beat the women by 30 seconds. So since we have the same VO₂ Max, I'm trying to win back here. I'm trying to get a win back. If I give you a 30-second head start, would I catch you in the mile?
Probably. Probably. There's only one way to find out, guys. The Upward Running Mile Challenge coming soon.
I don't know about that.
That'd be fun with Coach Dean, too.
Yeah.
Maybe it will.
He would need to give me another 30-second head start, I think.
Hey, PRs are PRs, whatever time it is, if it's 3:47 or 7:47. We're all out here chasing our own goals and our own finish lines. And speaking of finish lines, let's bring the news a little bit closer to home because we've got some pretty amazing things happening in the Upward Running Strava group.
Yep, every week I love to check in and see how I did against the other people in that group there. And most weeks I find myself in the top 10. Last week, off the leaderboard. Didn't make it. 45 miles, not good enough to make the leaderboard last week.
I did see that, and I was going to send you a message about it, but decided not to. That was still 45 miles.
Yeah, I mean, I did what I'm doing for my current training plan. I've got no problems with that, to do any more, especially given the injury that I'm trying to manage right now would be not so smart. So good on those 10 runners who beat me last week.
Yeah, so I did some digging and I found that our first place runner was a guy named Timothy Pearl, and he logged 102 miles. But the kicker is he only ran one time.
I mean, come on, Timothy. Once?
Yeah, apparently he was running in a 24-hour event in Boulder, Colorado. So first of all, elevation gain through the roof.
Yeah.
And over the course of that day, he completed 102, I think it was 0.7 miles. So pretty close to 103 miles, averaging about a 13-minute pace per mile. He said in his Strava caption, and I quote, "super surprisingly difficult," which might be the understatement of the year.
Yeah, just at elevation with all those miles. I'm sure there was some big, up and downs of the race there in Boulder. I've run in Boulder a time or two. There's nothing flat there in Boulder, so I'm sure that was an epic run there. I'll Big congrats to Timothy. Incredible accomplishment there.
Yep, I echo that. And if you guys want to join in on our Upward Running Strava group, just search us up, Upward Running on Strava, and you might get a shout out on the podcast. You never know.
All right, switching gears a little more now. Let's take a second to honor the legendary figure in the running world who just passed away. This is the one that I did not know, but you found this. This is a good story.
You didn't know about the Flying Nun?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So Sister Marion Irvine, known as the Flying Nun, she passed away last week at the age of 95. So she didn't even start running until she was 48 years old, which is incredible. But by the age of 54, she had qualified for the U.S. Olympic marathon trials, making her the oldest athlete to ever do that. So from 1981 through the early 90s, she set the American world records in the master's age groups. She won five gold medals in the 1989 World Masters Championships, and she ran a 2:51 marathon in her 50s.
Yeah, so not just fast for masters or for her age. That's just fast, period.
Yeah, I would love to run that.
I mean, me too.
But what made her story so powerful is the way that she blended her faith into her running. She once said, "God expects us to be the best person we can be." So for her, that meant pushing her physical limits as well as her spiritual ones. She was a role model for a lot of runners, especially some of the older runners, for women, and honestly for anything or for anyone who thinks it's too late to start running. So today, as we celebrate Sister Marion Irvine's life, we're reminded that running is about more than records or finish lines. It's about using the gifts God gives us, showing up with discipline, and running the race set before us with joy.
Yeah, reminds me of Madonna Barker. Someone who I met in person last week. I was in Columbus, Ohio. I knew that Madonna lived in that area. She's a frequent poster on the Upward Running Run Club app and on the Facebook page there. And so I messaged her. I said, "Hey, I'm in the area. You want to get a run in this week?" And so we were able to connect at a little run club that she was going to and ran 4 miles together. Had a great time getting to know her a little bit more. But she's one that didn't start running at all until she was in her 40s. And she started that through one of our 5K challenges that we have. And now she's crushed multiple marathons and just continues to improve in her running. And so she got into the game very late, just like this Flying Nun here, and continues to improve. And so I think it's a good testament for anyone out there who is just getting started or considering getting started. Maybe you're considering the Couch to Marathon that's starting later this month with Upward Running, and you think, is that even possible for me at my age? There's lots of examples. Maybe 251 is too far for you to aspire to, but Sister Marion Irvine would have thought the same thing at 47 before she got started.
It's true. Maybe Madonna's going to be the next Flying Nun. The Flying Madonna.
She will 100% hear this. And so that I'm sure she just laughed a little bit on that one. Yeah.
I love that. So you're going out of town again, like in an hour.
Yeah. Got to get on a plane going to New York City this week. And some good runs in Central Park. Should be fun.
Are you going to meet any of our members in New York?
I think this one's going to be tough to try to meet up with anyone. With pretty tight schedules around some of the activities I've got to do for work up there this week. But I do like running in New York. There's some great routes up there.
I love that. I don't think I've ever run in New York. So bucket list item. Okay. Next on our docket is my favorite news story that I've heard all week. I cannot wait to tell you about it. It gave me chills. So a half marathon was held this summer in a Utah state prison, and it's giving inmates purpose, connection, and a powerful path to transformation.
Yeah, another great one that you found here. So this was not your typical half. It was about 50 runners who ran 39 laps around a small track inside the low security yard. Some ran, some walked. A few even rolled in wheelchairs. But here's the thing. Every single person who started finished this race here.
Every single runner finished, and I'll add some pictures. It was really cute because some of the inmates were pushing the other inmates in the wheelchair to finish. Oh, it was just so amazing. This event was organized by Fit From Within, which is a running club started by and for incarcerated individuals inspired by the documentary 26.2 to Life. This group has shared a goal of running 1,000 collective miles each year, and this race was their first official event. And the impact is real. They were interviewing the therapist after the inmates completed this program, and the therapist reported that the inmates were less depressed, they were overall healthier, and they were just in overall better moods. They're more motivated, more connected, and they're finding purpose.
Yep. One of the runners, Casey Vanderhoff, won the race in 1:37. And the amazing part of that is he was just released on parole a week later. His next goal, he wants to qualify for Boston, just like me.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, he was an incarcerated inmate. He was given purpose, and now he's got big dreams.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Outside of the situation he was in. And so hopefully he can carry the things he's learned through running and through his time there into a productive and good life moving forward.
You might be running Boston with him in 2027.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, that was a fast half marathon time.
That's a great time.
And another runner who is serving life without parole quoted this: "I have life without parole, but not life without purpose." I cried. Like, I had tears in my eyes.
That's a good line.
It is a good line. And I'm not a very emotional person usually, but this story just spoke to me. But let's talk about perspective here. I mean, that's what running does. It gives you purpose, community, and hope no matter your pace, and apparently no matter your circumstances.
Right. So they plan on doing a full marathon later this year inside the prison walls. And so, if it was 39 laps for this one, 78, I guess, for the next one to complete the full there. But, as many of these people might be released, but some of them are planning on coming back for that race. And maybe not all as runners, but to cheer on some of the ones that are going to be in there. So really good story there. Glad you found that one.
Me too. It gave me chills. Okay, now it is time for our deep dive of the week. And our main topic is peak weeks and periodization. So if you've ever followed a training plan, you may have thought, why is this type of workout planned here or there? Well, there's actually a method to all of it, and we are going to break it down for you.
Yep. You'll see people call these phases different things, but if you pay attention, they're all getting at very similar things throughout. It reminds me of something that I've heard Mitchell and Dean say many times. There's a lot of plans out there that will get you to your goal. It isn't as much about which plan you pick. It's about committing to a singular plan for a cycle. Don't cherry pick. I like this workout here. I like this workout here. They're all put together with a purpose and a plan to get you to your goal. So like the upward running plans as an example, if that's the plan that you pick, stick to it. Follow it through. If you're on some other type of plan today, stick with it, follow it through. Next cycle, maybe check us out on that. But that's the thing. Lots of plans out there, lots of different ways of saying the same thing.
You know that we had to loop in Coach Dean to get him to break this down for us. So I'll break up his comments so we can discuss each one as we go. Let's start with the overall structure in the first phase of training. Dean says the stages in our training plans are called base, strength, and speed. Another one that we do not call out, but is part of our plan, is the peaking phase. The first phase is the base phase. Here, you are preparing your body to be able to handle the work that is going to come into the next few stages. Think lots of miles. In a plan where you are working towards an elite goal, you may even reach your highest mileage during the stage, but intensity is purposefully low.
Yep. In this phase, you're putting in the work. You're a long ways out from running your race. You're probably not even thinking too much about the race itself at this point. You're just getting yourself as fit as you can at this stage of the training plan.
Yeah, and if you're really building fitness, this is where you'll see big jumps in your fitness over these few weeks. So if you actually look at my VO2 Max chart, the little bump in the road is when I was in my base building period, running 35 miles a week, which is interesting.
Yeah. So lots of zone 2 running, again, like we've talked about many times before. But don't confuse that as just all easy running. You intentionally are building miles. So, you might see, incremental increases in your weekly miles here, and your long runs will be incrementally growing longer as well. And you're probably introducing some speeds in certain ways. You don't want to introduce speed later in the process. You want to be doing that speed later in the process very intentionally. So we got to introduce some of those concepts and get your body used to some of those things here in this initial phase here.
Okay, but we have to say that this all varies so much based on what kind of plan you're on and what your individual goals are. So we're trying to give some generalized information that will work for those going through a proper training plan for the first time, but it also is info that is still true for those going after big race goals. So Travis, what would be our one word to think about during this phase?
Yep. I think the word is steady. I think that's the right word here. So we want to follow the plan. We don't want to get ahead of the plan. We want to increase those miles and those long runs as prescribed. We want to hold steady because we're building that base work that all this other work can sit on top of as we move forward. So you got to build that base. If it's a pyramid and we want to peak at the end, we're going to build that base here so all that other work can be layered on top of it.
I love that. That's a good word. And I will note that this phase, it could be anywhere from 12 weeks to 24 weeks. So each of these phases can have different lengths as well. And it's really important not to compare yourself to other runners in the same phases or if they're moving on to another phase before you.
Yeah. So the upper running plans generally set up as 12-week, plans there. So this might be the first, 4 to 6 weeks of a plan as it relates to the way we do it. But other plans, much longer. And, you can pull a marathon plan. Sometimes it might be 22, 24 weeks. And this would be a much more extended part of a plan like that.
Okay, so let's move on to our next phase. This phase is the strength phase. So let's see what Coach Dean has to say about that. Travis, you want to take that one?
All right, so here's what Dean says. Dean says during the strength phase, the idea is to be able to run faster for longer periods of time. Hill work, tempo runs, long intervals with less rest are the staples of this phase. This is where you really work on boosting that VO2 max.
At this point, you're still a ways away from your actual race date, but you are feeling the work that you have already put in the first initial phase. So you're probably seeing gains at this point. And now you're going to look at some of those workouts, and they're not going to look too fun.
They're all fun, Claire. You just have to reframe that in your mind and make sure you're ready for it. So, but you are right on this one. The work is getting more intense. The paces are probably picking up. The thing to remember here is we're trying to get to a place where we can run these paces with less and less stress on our body. So you can't redline in a marathon or even in a 5K early on and try to hold those paces. So we got to train the body to run those quicker paces that we want to, but do it at a relaxed place so that you can sustain that pace.
Okay, but sometimes you're just not going to be able to hold that pace. And I'm pretty sure you were just telling me about a time where you ran into not being able to hold pace as well.
I'm probably in the next phase of my current training for the marathon. But this past week, I worked all day at a booth at a conference in Columbus. And then, I gave a speech on the stage at one point in time during the day. And then I had a workout that evening that I was trying to do on the course that I'm running the marathon in. And so went out, did my warm up, got to Ohio State University, and I was going to do laps around the horseshoe there as my workout last week. I was kind of thinking a Jericho thing. If you run around enough times, maybe it'll fall down. just kidding on that one. But I did run around a bunch of times, and so I just could not hold my pace. The plan said to do 4 sets And after two, I was okay. But moving into that third one, I was just cooked. I just couldn't hold the paces anymore. And I had to give up on the rest of the workout and just finish the long run out at that point in time. So these things happen. And so, you just can't look at it as like, oh no, what's going wrong with my training? You're going to have good days and bad days. We talked about the rule of the thirds a few episodes ago, and that's where I'm chalking that one up to. Is it was not my best day, but hopefully there'll be another good day here soon.
So what word would you use for this phase?
Effort in this phase is the word I would use. And so you really want to try to hit the effort that's planned for that workout. The exact paces here aren't exactly as important as just doing the work and doing what the plan has asked you to do for that, and doing it in the effort ranges that you're trying to accomplish there. And so that, for me, I live in South Carolina. A lot of times, if you're doing a fall race, you're running these in the hot months of the summer and just hitting those paces that maybe were prescribed as 5K pace or aerobic threshold pace or something like that might not be possible just because of all that. But if you can do it in the effort range that you're supposed to feel, and some of that you got to learn over time, I think that's what is most important here.
I would agree with that. And effort might come from nailing that long run. It might also come from hitting the consistent workouts week after week. It is also taking those recovery and easy days actually easy. I'm talking to myself here, so that your body has time to recover and can recover. So with that, let's move into the last phase of the training plan. Coach Dean calls this the speed phase. Here is what he has to say about it.
Yep, the speed stage, according to Dean, is what takes all of that strength and fine tunes it so that you can run faster for shorter distances, or certain paces for longer periods of times for those longer races. These workouts in this stage are shorter, but with very intense intervals with a lot of rest in between them. You might also see short hill sprints in this stage as well. So, this is where we want to sharpen our skills and get race ready. This is where the work really starts to come together. All the things you've been putting, all that foundation, all that layering of the work is really coming together. So hopefully, there's some confidence building with your skills as you move into these things, and you can nail those big workouts later in that cycle there.
So, Travis, you and I had a bit of a healthy debate about this phase coming into today's podcast. So I see this, and I've called this the peaking phase. I always have. So meaning this is the peak of the workouts and the peak of the mileage that you will run in a cycle.
Yeah, I think that's true. I've always thought of peaking as when you are ready to race, when you have done all the work and then you've let your body recover and you're in your most optimal shape that you can be in to perform at the highest level. I think Dean would agree with that. But in looking into, some what other people out there say about training phases and making sure we were, giving you guys the best information. A lot of people do use this phase of training as something they call peak training. And it does go to what you're saying. It's your biggest mileage weeks. It's your hardest workouts. It's your longest long runs, those type of things. And I get that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. So we can both be right there, right?
Let's both call that. Let's both call the win there. Yeah.
So what is the word for this phase?
All right. So I think the word is dialed in. Can I put a dash there to make that one word there? By that I mean in the previous stage it was more about effort, and now if you were going for a goal time, we need to hit those goal paces in this phase here. Then we need to use that info to determine what kind of race pace we're gonna plan for, and all of this should be there to help us get ready for race day. In the end here, we want to dial it in, be precise, make sure we're trying to stay healthy, and finish up the work for this training cycle.
And in these tough weeks, it always reminds me of the tough seasons in life, actually. It parallels, so that you just have to keep pushing through. Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up." So that's a peak training week in a nutshell, if you look at it like that. So it feels tiring, but if you keep showing up, there's a harvest waiting.
Yep. So if you're in a peak week, whether running or life, just keep going. Trust the process. Lean on your community. And remember, the finish line is always closer than you think.
Oh, I love that. Okay, well, we moved through the 3 main stages of a training plan, and here's what Coach Dean had to say about the final phase. Here is what he says about the taper. All of the work is intended to get your body to a peaking state where you are optimized for performance. That happens after you cut back on mileage and let the body rest to get ready for the goal race. For a 5K, that is normally about a week. For a marathon, most people go with a 3-week taper. It all depends on the length of the race, and each athlete is a little different too. So I suggest cutting back mileage and making the intense workouts much shorter. I like to cut mileage by about 20% 2 weeks before the race and as much as 50% the week of the race. As far as mistakes people make, that is very individualistic, but I would say the biggest mistake I see is cutting back too much. For most people, cutting out intensity in the last week can be a terrible mistake. It can leave the body feeling sluggish. So you will notice on our upward running training plans that you will see a short workout the week of the race. It is intended to keep the legs sharp, but not tire them out.
Yeah, great thoughts by Dean there. A lot of great information there. I think the taper, it can be very specific to each individual's. Like I have found that if they give you a range of mileage and workouts in a taper, maybe it's cut back 20 to 35% and 40 to 60% that next week or something like that. For me personally, I do better if I cut back all the way as much as I can on those things as far as what is prescribed. I just respond well to rest. And you know what? I didn't even realize this until my college days of running were done. And I actually went into a race like fully rested. I'm like, man, my legs feel amazing. Why have I not been doing this for 4 straight years? This is crazy. So I think that's what works best for me. But these taper plans will get you ready to kind of perform well on race day. And you just got to learn what works best for you, I think.
Yep. So I think I do my best taper when apparently there's a hurricane, because and I say that because my first marathon taper, it went terribly. Like I did not taper at all. And I went into that race with tired legs, and that's not what you want to do. My last marathon cycle was the Chicago Marathon, and Hurricane Helene happened right before there. So it literally forced me to slow down.
Yeah.
So just if you need a taper, wait on the hurricane.
That's great right there. All right. So the word I'm going to use for this, final phase here, the taper phase, is caution.
Caution. What?
So you may suddenly have a bunch of free time that you haven't had because you're not running quite as much. Be cautious. Don't pick up that next yoga class you've been thinking about because you got this extra time and you got this extra energy during this taper phase. You may have been putting off a landscaping project in your yard or a fence project like I need to take on in my own yard. And you got this extra time because you're not doing this crazy long run on Saturday morning. Ooh, maybe I'll pick that up. Be cautious because you don't want to pull something or get really sore from doing an activity that you're not used to right before the race. You've done all this work. Let's soak in that work in this taper phase. Be cautious about picking up new things so that you're ready to run that race. That new yoga class, that landscaping, it'll be there in a couple weeks. Don't worry.
And the crazy thing is, during this taper period, you might not feel well during the taper, but I am here to tell you that that is normal, and everybody else in a taper is feeling the same crazy that you are feeling.
Yeah. There's what you want is to feel great on race day. You don't have to feel great, the rest of the taper there. And somehow these taper plans really do a good job generally of getting your body to a place to where on race day, you're ready to roll and you click off those first, it depends on how long of a race it is, but you clip all that first mile or half mile or whatever it is of the race. And then suddenly you're ready to roll.
I love that. Well, Travis, you did a great job on this segment. This segment was brought to you by Travis and Coach Teen, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, before we wrap up today's episode, it is time for a segment that we are going to call Kind of Fast Feedback, where we take your stories, questions, and thoughts from the running community.
This week's question comes from one of our listeners, and it's a really good one here. What did they have as it was an email to you, I believe, right?
Yeah. So Tonya actually sent this in and she said, first off, thank you for providing a fun, laid back podcast that focuses on all things spiritual and running. I do have a few questions. My first, do you look at a race course before you run a race? I have a friend who asked me if I check out the course or run it beforehand. Honestly, I like to be surprised, but I want to know your thoughts. My second question is, talk to me about running between each decades. What activities should I be adding in or doing when I ran in my 20s, 30s, and now 40s? A weighted vest with an eye roll emoji. Thank you both. I also believe the running community is the most supportive. Running friends light up your path for God's glory to shine.
All right, so let's talk with the let's break this down in a couple different segments here. She asked about the course preview question. What do you? I'll answer it, but do you look at a course ahead of time?
I like to be surprised too.
All right, I study the course. I am an expert on the course before I do it. If it's a marathon, I want to watch someone else who's filmed the course, or I like to raise my hand and go to a conference in Columbus, Ohio, 2 months before, so that I can go run the course a little bit and have that in my mind there. I am, if not anything else, I'm looking at the elevation profile if they offer that. I want to know where the hills are, how much hills they are. I need to be prepared for all of those things. I am absolutely a course preview person.
I would expect nothing less. Now, I will say I have checked the elevation before, but as for the actual course, I like to be surprised. I don't know. I don't want to know where the hill is. Just hit me with it. Okay, now for the decades question, which is such a good one. So I am currently in my early 30s, but in my 20s, I felt like I could usually get away with a lot more intensity and a little bit less recovery. And by less recovery, I mean no recovery at all. But I feel that changing now very quickly. And I've started to add strength training, mobility, and actually resting in my early 30s.
Yeah, and that's only going to enhance as you move forward. I think when it relates to age here, I think you can chase big goals at any age. And some of that might be against people in your own age group. But you mentioned the 20s, 30s, and 40s specifically. You can chase goals in all of those things. I wish that I knew in my 20s and 30s what I do now about training philosophies, recovery, strength training, some of these things. Well, there's nothing I can do about the missed years there. All I can do now is apply that and try to be the best version of myself at this point. And so I personally think that at any age, you can dive into this. I mean, look at the Flying Nun we already talked about. I mean, she started in her late 40s and achieved amazing things at that point. So wherever you are, today's the best day to start on that fitness journey. Anything you comment on that?
I was going to bring up the Flying Nun and Madonna Barker as well for this. I mean, it's never too late to start.
Great. So let me also say this about age. I think you are what you admit to yourself and what you say out loud to yourself. And I really try to limit the talk to myself about myself getting older. I'm 44 now, but I don't talk about that much. I don't associate that with being old. In fact, I think a lot of people do that too much, too often, and they become old because they are talking about themselves, being old at that point in time. So, I mean, it's happening. We're getting older, but it's only to the degree that I think you are telling yourself that you're getting older. And I am certainly in better shape in my 40s than I was in my 30s at any point in time in that decade. And I still think I have a lot of improvement that I can do at this point, and I look forward to seeing what I can achieve.
I love that so much. And I love how she ended her email with running friends light up your path for God's glory to shine. And that's what this community is truly about, lifting each other up decade after decade, mile after mile. But thank you for reaching out to us.
Yeah,
Much
we
appreciated.
do need to comment on the weighted vest thing. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious what your thoughts are. We've never talked about this before, so I'd love to get your comments on that. Weighted vest, I think rucking, as part of that. And so that's kind of a strength type thing that a lot of people do with walking. Some people even do it with running. I used rucking when I was coming back from my injury as a way to, not pound on my leg that was coming back from a stress fracture, but still get an extra workout from an aerobic workout there from walking. So I didn't have the pounding on the leg, but my heart rate was up because I was carrying a bunch of weight around. And so for me, here's what I'd say on weighted vests. If you're going to do it, do it. Like some of these vests, have almost no weight to them, the girly ones that have that. And I would say, I don't know how much benefit there really is on that. But if you get one that's got some actual weight to it, you are going to see some benefits. It will raise your heart rate. Your muscles will get stronger from it. Anything you do with consistency is going to help you there. And I know Mitchell, if you listen to the Upward Running podcast, he's been talking about rucking a while. He's doing some reviews of that. He calls himself the guinea pig of Upward Running. And so you might see rucking plans in our plans in the future based on what he's learning there. But those are my thoughts. But, in a nutshell, if you're going to do it right, put some actual weight on and do it with consistency.
I really don't have too much to add to this conversation because I've never personally tried it. The only time I've ever worn a weighted vest was to run a 5K, and I don't recommend that.
Yeah.
I do not recommend that. My shoulders were torn up.
That's the thing. When I do it with the rucking, it's my shoulders way before my legs that give out.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was rough. But maybe in the future, if there's a plan on Upward Running, I will experiment.
So I don't know if we helped there. Those are our thoughts on weighted vests.
Well, thank you for reaching out. Greatly appreciate it. Love the conversation.
Yeah.
All right. We're almost time to wrap up. Travis, what you got going on the training schedule this week?
Well, I'll note that I was real concerned last week about my shin, and it bothered me. And I took, 4 straight days off, which is, a lot for me to take off to try to, get that going in the right direction. And I can happily say it's feeling much better, far less concerned. I think it's something that I'll need to, continue to monitor and manage as I finish out this cycle, but I feel like I'm in a good spot there. So just a regular training week for me this week. Going to get a workout in up in New York and a good long run this weekend when I get back. So,
I'm glad about your shin.
Yeah.
That is great news.
Man, I was like looking up MRI places and everything. I told you, I was like, if I got something wrong, I might just go jump in a marathon next week and just see where my fitness is at before this thing gets really bad. But that's crazy talk. No one should do that kind of stuff. That's bad advice. Totally there. But I think we're past it. And thank you, Jesus, for that one.
Yeah, seriously. I have exciting news. I'm going to hit my 1,000th mile of the year on Thursday.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're ahead of me.
I know.
I had that break early
Yep.
on. I think I eclipsed 900 just recently. So we're pretty close.
We are close.
Yeah.
You're going to beat me at the end of the year. But for now, I've got you in VO2 Max and mileage.
My goodness. Just getting beaten down today. No, that's a great major milestone. And, we talk about all the time, like, big gains comes from consistency and doing it over and over and over. and putting those miles together. So great achievement there. Congrats on that.
Thank you. I'm very excited. It's going to be in the middle of a speed workout, though, so I can't, like, I don't know, pop a little confetti popper, or maybe I can, but thank you. I'm excited.
So you're still probably in the early phase that we were talking about today here. Just logging the miles. Marathon, what, 2 months out?
It's
Or
October.
half marathon.
Yes, half. It's October 25th. So right
You
now,
might be moving into the second phase here.
I think I'm in the second phase.
Yeah.
I think I'm in the second phase because lots of speed work. It's hard, but it's so fun. I would much rather go and run real fast and run a shorter distance right now than go run like 12 miles.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Okay, cool.
All right. And with that, our time is up. Don't forget, this podcast is powered by Upward Running, a community built to help you run with purpose, stay motivated, and find your people. As always, this journey is more than miles, and God is in every step. The good runs, the bad runs, the tough days, the quiet moments, it all matters to Him. He is with you, He is for you, and He is using this season to grow something deeper inside of you.
At Upward Running, this is where faith and fitness meet, and we'd love to run with you. Join us at upwardrunning.com/kindofast. That's upwardrunning.com/kindofast. And if you use the code kindofast, you get 2 weeks free. And we know that you heard about it from the podcast, which we super appreciate.
Yep, we will be back next Friday with another episode.
And if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, leave a review, shoot Claire an email, any of those things. That would be great to do, like Tonya did this week. So keep showing up, keep running your race, the one God has marked out just for you.
Bye.
See ya.
I lost our spot, but that's okay. We'll cut this out. Boop.
Yep. So, yep, I missed it.
You good to go?
I think so.
Need to get your stitches in?
Let me start that over.